Hey, Oscar fans, we are here with the original Gold Derbyites. We are here with Thelma Adams, the great Thelma Adams, and Paul Sheehan, our executive editor. They've been with Gold Derby since the first horse leapt out of the gate, right? Thelma, let's start
Since
with you.
Moses came out with his 15, his 15 rules. Dropped one, that old joke. Yeah. I drop one. There's 10 commandments,
Well, give us your thought process on your Daredevil prediction for lead actress. Thelma is saying Olivia Colman, who did just win the BAFTA. So what's your thinking here, Thelma?
Well, part of it, I'm just on a BAFTA high. And I think that I just felt like, oh my God, most of us Gold Derbyites were marching lockstep. And I felt like Glenn Close, despite the fact that that role is fantastic and she deserves to win and she's overdue, there's no other nominations in any other category for the wife.
Like Julianne Moore and Still Alice, Thelma. Come on, it's Sony Pictures Classic doing it again for another overdue Oscar nominee.
Yes. Okay. So I can respect that, Paul. I can respect that and just go with my gut that people really love The Favorite. They really love this role. And I just feel her rising. Now, you could argue it. But one thing that we can say from the earlier times that Lady Gaga's not winning
it. I know.
Okay.
I know.
Can we make that agreement? Can we make that secret pact?
I don't think it's so secret anymore. But boy, I felt sorry for Lady Gaga because, we were telling her, don't bother going to BAFTAs. Your film isn't even going to win that oddball music award. Stick around for the Grammys where you're going to get all these wonderful awards for Shallow. And she didn't. She didn't get the big awards for Shallow at the Grammys, but they did win that BAFTA. So, but Thelma, don't you think that, Olivia Colman, they love her at BAFTA. They've given her 3 on the TV side. It's kind of parochial. Do you think that because the Academy's expanded so dramatically on an international level in the last few years, is that what kind of gives you a little hope for Thelma, a Brit, to come riding in?
Yes, I think that that's the reason. Now, in a week, I might wiggle back and forth right at the last minute, but I felt like, we couldn't all be lockstep. And when you start talking to people and they're like, whoa, I didn't watch The Wife, you're kind of like, okay, I just felt a little weakness there. And the only person I could see who could power through, to me is Olivia Colman, because so many people and so many actors are behind that film and supporting that film. Lord knows, Melissa McCarthy, fantastic in that movie that she was in. So this is one thing I can say for sure, gentlemen, that this year, the Best Actress category, more exciting, than the Best Actor.
Thelma,
even the dog agrees with me.
Let's jump down the ballot to documentary feature. And you've got Free Solo, and now most of the experts have switched to Free Solo, by the way. RBG did have the lead there among the experts. It's switched now to Free Solo. Free Solo seems to have the momentum. It's clearly a more exciting documentary. It's more emotional. It's more thrilling. But I'm jumping there because of something you just said a minute ago, which was if they even watch these things, right? So even let's assume they don't, because it used to be a case of where for documentary feature and foreign film, you had to go to screenings and prove you saw it. Now it's open up to the whole Academy, and they can lie. They can just say, oh yeah, I saw it and vote anyway. If they do that, the winner is probably RBG, right? But if they actually watch it, it's Free Solo. So what's your thinking on this race?
Well, my thinking on this is that Free Solo is exciting.
Yeah.
The filmmaking is exciting. It's one of those perfect storms of finding, having the perfect subject and great filmmakers who realize they are basically watching an accident waiting to happen and not sure whether if it happens, that's better for their film or not. It's such an odd, it just seems like in so many ways, it's a feat of filmmaking. Whereas I adore RBG, but it really is a very by the numbers. And then we had the movie about RBG. But Paul, what do you think?
Well, I'm just mindful of what one of the other experts who we've now got working here at Gold Derby, Susan Wazena, said about RBG, which is you don't get to see her at work. You don't get to see her doing what she does, sitting on the Supreme Court, so I think for Susan, it felt like it was a little lacking. It was a great, well-made movie, but you didn't get the connection like you do with Free Soul. And on your BAFTA high, Susan, of course, Thelma, it just won the BAFTA, Free Soul.
Yeah, the BAFTA. And I've been hearing buzz about Free Solo when I talk to people that I very much respect out of Telluride. And I said, what are the movies I have to go see? Free Solo was on that list. I think people are very excited about that.
Yeah. Forgive me, I was calling it Free Soul, just thinking back to when Tom first went to the Oscars and John Barrymore won.
Oh, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, when he went on his canoe, wasn't that it?
Right. I'll tell you about my weekend with Janet Gaynor and Emil Janning sometime.
Oh no. The real, oh no.
Whoa, I know. That's your next
the real
novel.
Janet Gaynor.
That's your next novel, Thelma.
Yes, that is my next novel.
All right, I'm going to jump further down the Oscar ballot to something else you're breaking from the pack with, which is visual effects. You've got First Man, and I think I know your thinking here. If you look down the list of nominees there, you've got Avengers, Black Panther,
Black Panther, yeah.
So, not Black Panther.
The cartoony movies. What's that? Oh, Black Panther's not in there for visual effects?
No, the visual.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
But is your choice here, Thelma, for visual effects First Man because it's the more serious? It's a real serious movie, and the Oscar voters are snobs. And what's your thought?
My thought is that people in the technical field, whether they like or don't like this movie, they respect this as one of the most well-made movies of the whole pack. And because of that, I feel like in terms of visual effects, it may sneak forward. And we got to remember when we first saw it, everyone was like, oh, this is the movie to beat, blah, blah, blah. It, as it turns out, is not. But the craft of that movie is above and beyond. So that's my thought.
But is it best visual effects or most visual effects?
You usually go for the most.
Best.
Right.
So I think best.
Well, because First Man is, when it was at the Visual Effects Society, contended and won in supporting. But it's Avengers that, was their equivalent of the Best Picture award. And I think there's some shockingly low number of shots in Avengers that do not include visual effects. It's that visual effects heavy.
But it's a superhero movie, and they take that less seriously in general, Paul, right? Or no?
Right. No, it's true. But and it's so interesting that, Tom, I think a lot of Oscar voters are going to be surprised when Black Panther isn't on that part of the ballot.
I know.
Right.
It's sort of the one category you sort of thought if it had been nominated, it was sure to win. Black Panther.
Okay, now let's jump up to the biggest award of all. Thelma, you are predicting, like I am, Roma, but we know that there's a lot of knocking at the door by Green Book, and I think even by Black Klansman. I think we are talking to Oscar voters now, and when they volunteer their thoughts and even their ballot to us, we hear a lot of Black Klansman votes in that 1, 2, or 3. If not 1, and then 2 and 3. Those 3 movies seem to dominate the conversation. But you say Roma, why?
Also, I'm interested to hear that you didn't hear The Favorite in those top 3.
Oh, yes, I know. Well, The Favorite is. I shouldn't say that. It is in there. That's true. But it's in our tally so far. I don't think we've caught any number 1s for The Favorite, but we're still, just.
Yeah. It's still an odd thing, and you don't have access to everybody. All of those
no, people are just
the hermits that don't share, Yeah. But why Roma? From the moment I saw it, it was my favorite movie. I mean, I love the death of Stalin, which is not even in this discussion.
Came out too early.
Came out too early, Toronto. But I just think this, to me, as a child of the Fellini era, as someone who saw myself the radicalism of the 70s, as someone who grew up on the border, This movie knocked me out emotionally, visually, the characterizations of the women, the complexity of the story, and the willingness for Cuarón to let it breathe, that he wasn't pushing anything. There was no manipulation to this movie. And I feel like that will be recognized.
Paul, the Academy has been going for art house movies consistently, and boy, this is the ultimate one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting, Thelma, you brought up the favorite, just because I think the fact that, and there's a difference, say, between BAFTAs with 5 nominees, and it's a strict popular vote. So you just,
right.
The 8,000 or so BAFTA voters just picked one picture, and the plurality of them went with Roma over the favorite, which had led with the most nominations and the most wins. So that gives me the thinking that if you extend that over to the Oscars with their 8 pictures, that Roma is going to be ranking pretty darn high on that preferential ballot. My only concern about Roma, though, is that people that speak passionately about it in favor of it, like you can seem to find there's a lot of people that can speak as passionately against it.
Like boring. There's no plot. What is this? It's pretentious. Black and white. Who cares? Don't we know this is the 21st century?
I don't know anyone who said that.
Either do I. But I'm just having fun with you.
No, there are a lot. I've had that argument. Okay. I would also say, Paul, you go ahead. Then I'll.
I just want to say that then the way the preferential ballot works is if your number 1 choice gets knocked out, if you're a Black Panther person, then the Academy, when they're looking at the votes the next go round, they look and see what you've ranked as number 2. So it becomes this bit of a guessing game of where will people put Roma if they don't put it first? And will enough of them put it second? So when they're doing the counting and recounting, it gets to 50% plus 1. Right. And I'm not sure yet that's you have to remember, passion gets you the nomination, but it's being a consensus choice that gets you the win. So Tom, where do you fall in?
I don't know. Pete Hammond is very, very passionate about the feedback he's hearing in the industry, which is the fact that his observation is that voters are doing exactly what you say, Paul, that if they're not for Roma in the first position, it's either going in that second or third or down at the bottom.
Right.
And that they there's all this strategic voting going on. Mm-hmm. And there are all these wild card factors. For example, like the favorite, Thelma, you mentioned that. But I think Paul's point about BAFTA is really, really insightful. But we have to remember BAFTA's been wrong about Best Picture the last 3 years. It went with 3 billboards last year instead of Shape of Water. But my skepticism about the favorite is that, I'm sorry, it's gender bias. The Academy did go for a female perspective film last year with Shape of Water. But the last time they did it, it was $1 Million Baby, how many billions of years ago that was. And now here's a movie with 3
when Janet Gaynor was young.
Yes, right. And are they going to go for a movie with 3 female points of view? I'm sorry. I still think it's a boys'
Tom,
club.
I'm going to address that one.
Go ahead.
They will if it's 3 women kissing each other.
Oh, that's a good. Oh my God.
Bum.
You know what? Let me tell a story on you. Let me tattle on you, Thelma. Which was, Thelma was twice chair of the New York Film Critics Circle, and one year when Mulholland Drive won, Thelma and I were talking on the phone. I go, "How the F did a Mulholland Drive win?" And Thelma, with her great cynicism, said, "Well, Tom, it had a lesbian scene."
And it's still getting number 1 on these lists, best movie of the
So with the notion of the preferential ballot, Thelma, I mean, the only group that mimics it is the PGA, and they went with Green Book. Are you concerned with Roma that, regardless of, how it's being positioned? I mean, it's streamed on Netflix. I mean, maybe it was shot for cinema, but the majority of people, 99% of people, saw it on their home screens. I mean, do you think that the Motion Picture Academy will embrace a television movie?
Ooh,
okay.
Ooh,
well,
ouch.
Okay, that's a good question. I want to step back and then I'm going to answer it, Paul. One thing I want to say is both actresses got nominated, both were long shots. So that shows a wide and deep support
Great point.
But that Netflix, okay, the Netflix factor, I don't really know how it's going to play out. You know, I
It's a
think that's
wonderful.
the
Let's
big
talk about
question
this.
mark.
If there's industry bias against Netflix, we don't know, but we do know this: they did win one Oscar last year. They won for the only Oscar they've ever had, which was for Icarus for Best Documentary Feature. It was about, of course, the Russian doping for the Olympics.
Right.
It felt important. It was in the headlines, and it was certainly a worthy choice. But let's look over at the Emmys for a second. Netflix has never won Best Comedy or Drama Series. Hulu has. Amazon has. So, I mean, there isn't a real bias against the streaming services if that can happen from a Hollywood peer group award. But Netflix still hasn't done it. It's gotten a lot of nominations at the Emmys across the top, but it hasn't nabbed one of those. It did get the crown, for Claire Foy in a top category. But anyway, if some conspiracy theorists want to believe there is a pushback against Netflix, there is awards evidence to bolster that.
But then countering that, I would say what Roma has going for it, besides the brilliant strategist Lisa Tayback,
and her huge team and her deep pockets.
Yeah, I mean, and they are
$50 million. I have a source, a very, 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 very good source, who I cannot reveal, whose hands have been on the budget, who told me that it is a minimum of $50 million, and it's maybe closer to 60. Go ahead.
So between that, the promotional aspect, but the delivery service, in other words, there is no need to send a screener. Every single person that's voting for the Oscars, I'm sure, is a subscriber to Netflix in whatever country they're in. You see, again, back to the international expansion over the last couple of years, you can imagine these Oscar strategists are trying to figure out the addresses of these 2,000 people that have joined in the last 4 years. Well, Netflix has solved that problem. They're coming into their house anyway. You don't need to get them a screener because everyone's got Netflix. Who doesn't have Netflix in whatever country you're in? They're in 100+ countries.
Right. Direct delivery.
Yeah.
But I want to go back and tell me if this interests you. Green Book. Because when I saw it in Toronto in the second week. There weren't a bunch of critics. I saw it in an audience full of real audience members, and there was an excitement about the movie, an enjoyment of the movie, standing ovation. I believed that day that it would win the most popular movie award at Toronto, with the Slumdog Millionaire Award, as we call it.
And it did.
And it did. So I don't. It's hard for me as a journalist to have, having followed all of the counter arguments about it, about black and white and this and that, and the contextualizing of it, to remember that if the ballot is weighed by popularity, it's going to be at the top or the middle of most people. It doesn't divide the way Roma does.
It's the little engine that could. I mean, it just topped 100 million. Which matters in Hollywood, I mean, Roma made 3 million, because they did that very limited release.
Right.
I think what I found so interesting about Roma is that Cuarón, who, the way he shot it, and cinemas had to have special projectors to show the movie. But yet, as I said, 99% of people, he was fine with them watching it on their tablets, on their phones. I think we're all agreed, though, that Cuarón's winning Best Director, right? I mean,
right.
The threat of Spike Lee was diminished after after Spike lost BAFTA.
So I don't really take the BAFTAs all that seriously.
I'm a DGA, and we knew he wasn't going to win.
Yeah,
but DGA, yeah.
I have heard a lot of people make the argument to me, and Paul, you probably have too, that it's Spike's time.
Yeah, absolutely. He's never won a competitive Oscar. He got the honorary one a couple of years ago.
He's only been nominated once, and it was for screenplay, and he's never been nominated before for directing. So all of a sudden, we have a theory at Gold Derby among our editors of the apple and oranges. If one thing is unlike all the others in a category and is a strong contender, go for that. I mean, we see it at the Oscars played out in categories where there may be 4 Brits and 1 American, the Marissa Tomei win. They're going, how did she win? Well, and things like that. So obviously, Spike is very different from the other 4 nominees in many ways. but I think it's still possible. But I think the likelihood is.
Yeah, and I'm someone who does not feel that the achievement of Black Klansman is the direction.
Oh,
so I don't think I'm alone in that.
Can I shift though to in terms of, you've got Olivia Colman for the favorite, Thelma. Who are you? Are you predicting Rachel Weisz then for supporting actress?
I'm having real problems on that category because I don't want to let Regina King go, and I think she's the Beale Street Award. You know, not only was she fantastic, and she had a TV show, but Beale Street, a lot of people love it, and it's been kind of ignored.
Yeah, it just
overall,
pulled ahead, and you've got Beale Street for music score, and the other experts did not, but now they do. So it's gaining some momentum, at least in one other category.
Right, but I feel that's the only thing between. To me, that's the only thing between the award and Rachel Weisz.
Yes.
If it you know, if Regina King wasn't representing, then maybe it would have gone to Rachel.
And it still can.
It still can. And you know, she as many people, she's been out there pressing the flesh.
She has.
Yeah. No, she certainly. I thought that Regina King, though, boy, when I saw her presenting at the BAFTAs, she didn't get nominated, but she was over there and glad handing. I thought that was so
right.
That was because of our own Chris Beecham, our managing editor, who noticed wasn't going to BAFTA. And Chris, behind the scenes, this is the power of Gold Derby, baby. All of you watching and listening to this, is that Chris was on the phone saying, "You want Regina to win this. She's not nominated at BAFTA, but these award voters need to see her on an award stage because they often, don't remember who actually was nominated. They just remember that so-and-so was on the show. So actually, I'm sorry to tell this story if it embarrasses Regina King and her people, but Chris reached out and her people said, "You know what? You're right." And they offered her for BAFTA. BAFTA said, "We'll take her as a presenter." And she was over there. And I said to Chris the other day, "You did that, you son of a gun." And he said, "You know what? We'll never know if it made the difference."
But it did.
Maybe it did. Yeah. Way to go, Chris.
Way to go, Chris. And I would say, Regina, stepping back 1 second, she just was that role, that performance in Beale Street. She was fantastic.
Yeah, she was. And she has the big money scene too. When she goes down to New Orleans, she has that scene which you need. And
right, exactly.
But it comes late in the movie. Rami Malek was not everybody's favorite early on. Here's another movie that has been dinged by controversy, but he seems bulletproof. Like you've got Mahershala Ali and Rami winning, as I do. I think they're immune from all of these barbs that their movies are taking. But why do you think that is, though? Why are they excused and their movies are still under fire?
Well, they're under fire for different reasons. I would say, for me, I just didn't think Bohemian Rhapsody was as fun as the music that we all love. But that said, and that Rami Malek is fantastic, but they gave him those awful teeth. And I'm sorry, like it to me, and I've said this before, it's a little bit like Nicole Kidman's wigs, whether it's in Destroyer or Lion.
Or Nicole Kidman's nose that got her an Oscar.
Right. But it's just like, okay, Paul?
Well, tell me, I don't think you realize this, but they actually gave him the teeth Meryl Streep wore in The Iron Lady. They're a good luck charm.
Good luck charm.
Yeah.
I just didn't, I loved him. And controversy aside, I just felt like there weren't performances around him. There's no best supporting in that movie.
But SAG didn't think so. They nominated
it ensemble. That's right, and it did get a Best Picture nomination.
But it is really now his for the taking. I mean,
and I think because to a large degree, what Thelma just said about Regina King too is that these are nominees and contenders and now frontrunners who have been working the scene, the circuit. Rami, I sat next to him at the Critics' Choice Awards. He was doing every selfie. He was taking he was joyous every time somebody bothered him at the table.
Right.
He loved it. He loved the attention. He was having fun, and that spirit that he has exuded throughout award season is contagious, and people love him. And
Right.
so I think that matters a lot. That's the Eddie Redmayne ground game, and how he ended up winning Best
Wow,
Actor.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
You are so right.
to bring it back full circle, though, Thelma, to what we talked about at the beginning, which was Olivia Colman, the favorite, versus Glenn Close. Tom always says that these acceptance speeches are your auditions for the Oscars. And I love Olivia Colman. I love her in all her, she's the most varied of performers and
Right.
comedies and dramas and this film. But I'm sorry, you can't compare her acceptance speech at BAFTA, which was charming and endearing, to that moment of Glenn Close at the Golden Globes, which I would think twice or three times as many Oscar voters saw. I mean, did you not want to just give her the Academy Award right there?
She won it right there. If she wins it, she won it right there.
I want to say that I would rather be with Olivia Colman and get pissed.
I know.
Personal choice, but you know what? In all these things, I could be slipping back and forth still. We still have another almost 10 days. And no harm, no foul, Glenn Close. Like, that would make me happy. So that's where I'm sitting.
We constantly get surprised by the Oscars here and there, and upsets are what we hope for and yearn for. So here, what we're trying to call them here. Any final thoughts, Thelma? I know you've got to run off and catch a train.
My final thought is just, what an odd year. Someone asked me, I was on WAMC yesterday with Joe Donahue, and that's my local public radio in upstate New York. And he had seen every movie. And he asked me, was it a good year for women? Mm-hmm. And I said, no. Because
why not?
Because there were no women in the director category. And this year there were many women, including Marielle Heller for the worst title, Can You Ever Forgive Me? Will You Ever Forgive Me? So I think in terms of the directing, we have room to grow. But on the other hand, as I said before, in terms of the best actresses, and the best supporting actresses, what a variety of fantastic, meaty roles. Whereas the male roles weren't as great this year.
Well, women may not have broken into directing, Thelma, but there is a slight uptick in the number of nominees. From last year, it was just under 24%. This year, it's 25% of the nominees across the
street, but at least it's the right direction.
And they're guaranteed to win. A woman will win costume design, and there is a woman who is a nominee in both sound mixing and sound editing, and that's a breakthrough. Right. So it's slow but sure that you're seeing the growth of women in categories other than two acting categories.
Okay, final thought here from me. Thelma Adams has a new book out called Bittersweet Brooklyn. I just downloaded it on my Kindle here last night. Here is the first sentence. Do I have to pay you royalties for this, Thelma?
No, okay. I'm giving it to you, baby.
This is a woman who knows how to write. Here's her first sentence. It's tough torching a corpse. So the Williamsburg Boys Club killers stuffed their shredded victim into the back of a Buick. Thelma, what's the book about? Let's tease a little bit here.
The book, Bittersweet Brooklyn, it was originally titled Kosher Nostra, which was a name for the Jewish mob. And it's about a Jewish mob family told from the point of view of the little sister. So it's kind of like Boardwalk Empire flipped, where you tell it from the woman's point of view. So it's not all bloody bodies, but it's a lot of dysfunction.
And it's a lot of great writing that really
thank you.
Has a punch and sparkles. Well done, Thelma.
Just like Thelma.
Just like Thelma.
Sparkle with a punch.
There you go. Thank you.
So
go catch your train. Thank you so much, Thelma.
Thanks.
Thank you, Paul.
And great season.
Yes, same. It sure has been. Thanks.